ahead with him, sat up on the bike. Rossi Banham looked like he may have come through anyway. Richard Holmes-Williams made that task very easy for him, and Rossi Banham went and got the fastest lap anyway, deserved the race win. But the reason Richard Holmes-Williams did that is because he may not have wrapped the championship up yesterday, but the situation in Extreme 200s is this, ladies and gentlemen. If Richard Holmes-Williams finishes the race, then he is champion. It's as simple as that. If for whatever reason Richard Holmes-Williams has an incident, comes off the bike, DNFs, whatever happens, then Taylor Lawrence must win to roll it into the next race. But Richard Holmes-Williams, all he needs to do is stay on that bike, take the checkered flag, and he will become the 2019 champion. Well, let's get underway and see if we can crown our second champion of the weekend here at Rowrah. To talk you through the race start, here's Liam Hodgins.
Thank you very much, Chris. Richard Holmes-Williams on bike 126 alongside 86 of Rossi Banham. Revs are rising and away they go. A pop of a wheelie from Rossi Banham as they power up towards the first chicane. Great start there from the 186, and he's ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams, who's just testing out the conditions, putting his foot down as he goes through the chicane all the way down to McRae's. Is there a change for second? No, there's not. Was that Taylor Lawrence? No. Yes, it was Taylor Lawrence having a look at the only person who could stop Holmes-Williams. Up to Iredale's to go, laying the brakes, both of them. Foot down for Richard Holmes-Williams, late in the brakes, still holds second but runs a little wide, powering out of Iredale's. And yes, Taylor Lawrence, as they head down towards the Essex, powers past the 126 of Richard Holmes-Williams. Now remember, if Richard Holmes-Williams finishes behind Taylor Lawrence, it doesn't make a difference at all. He still will be champion. And Jamie King is ahead of his rival. That is, of course, Brandon Perrell. These two have been duking it out all season long. Perrell in 5th, and of course, Jamie King in 4th. So he's in a pit bike 140 bike, having a good bit of fun out there before his pit bike 140 race a little bit later on in the day. So as they come across the line, it's Banham from Lawrence. Richard Holmes-Williams, Tractor Boys is known to his friends and family, is in 3rd ahead of Jamie King, Brandon Perrell, and Dave Hole rounds out the runners and riders for this race. But there's a bit of a moment there from Taylor Lawrence, squiggly as he comes out of McRae's hairpin. It looked like he might have just put his foot right down onto the track there, as he might have hit a curb as he got the power down. So thankfully Taylor Lawrence does stay on the bike and still in 2nd position.
I know those white lines could be very greasy, and the exit curves as well, not really where you want to be getting the power down, and maybe that was just the case there. They're still in the early stages of the race, so just feeling out the grip of the circuit. Speaking of Brandon Perrell, as we go side by side between Lawrence and Holmes-Williams as they come through the final corner now onto the start-finish straight. Holmes-Williams just had a look to the outside, couldn't quite get through. Up towards the line they go, and it's still as you were: Banham, Lawrence, Holmes-Williams, King, Perrell and Hull. Down towards the first hairpin they go, and Taylor Lawrence coming down the gears as they get in towards that tight first hairpin, now towards Iredale's. And Taylor Lawrence at the moment still able to hold on to second. I was just going to say, Brandon Perrell, I know he was in the studio yesterday just recording a voiceover for an onboard lap, so if you want to know what it feels like to ride around this Rowrah circuit, then do check that out online. Coming down towards St John's now for lap number 3. Banham streaking away up front. He set the fastest lap like he did yesterday. He's pulling away. He's almost 2 seconds clear. So our main focus really for this race is going to be Taylor Lawrence versus Richard Holmes-Williams in seconds. As Liam Hodgins said, because of the extension...
Boys down, Richard Holmes-Williams is into the barrier at turn number 1. Started to jump over you there, Chris, but it seemed to be pushing a little bit too hard and lost the front. So if he can get the bike back into the race, he will be champion still. But if you can't get restarted, that's over. It will roll in to race number 3.
Only if Taylor Lawrence wins the race, though, so he still may be able to do it in this race. But Taylor Lawrence has to win because the gap is at 121 points. Taylor Lawrence has to get that below 100 points, and to do that, he'd have to win the race. Well, a rare mistake, you'd have to say, from Holmes-Williams, considering all he has to do is finish the race. It's hard to say. I mean, you're an ex-rider yourself. How easy is that to do, to drop a front wheel going into a chicane like that?
Well, they sometimes always say once you back it off just 0.5%, then sometimes you say it's creeping because you're not focusing completely on the task ahead. So that could have been an issue. Maybe he was pushing harder than we actually thought, because there was a few moments between himself and Taylor Lawrence. So it's always tricky in these conditions. Sometimes they always say it's better to be either fully wet or fully dry, because If it's greasy, then it's just always going to be very slippy. So with 7.5 laps remaining, we've got Rossi Banham just having a bit of fun out there, kicking his foot out, and yeah, I think he's just looking around and saying, where's everyone? But don't back off too much, because Taylor Lawrence is only 3.2 seconds further back, so not a million miles away.
I believe Holmes Williams did come across the line, because his last lap was at 1 minute 22, so he is back in the race. But I completely agree with you. It's once you back off that 0.5%, perhaps that's where the lapse of concentration comes in. The small mistakes creep in. Let's remember, they are tricky conditions out there, but Holmes Williams, there's a reason he's 121 points coming into this race clear of everyone else. It's because he doesn't make those mistakes. So, well, Holmes Williams, if Taylor Lawrence was to go and win this race, he would have to wait for race number 3 to crown himself the champion. But it looks like he's still going, so he should be able to do that. But he has to take the checkered flag, because if he doesn't, then he won't score any points. With Jamie King there, you can just see it's the outside of the track, isn't it? The runoff areas. And I heard 2 of the riders speaking earlier. One of the older riders giving some advice to one of the younger riders, and they just said, stay off the white line, stay off the exit curbs. I mean, how slippy is it when you're on a bike trying to get the power down and you're a little bit wide?
Oh, it's very slippy indeed, because wet conditions and paint, you just get no grip. I know recently most racetracks have tried to put sort of sand into the paint so that it's a bit more grip. So you will see in GP, for example, them all riding the curbs even in the wet. Maybe here at the grassroots levels, they don't have that. So you really want to just stay off the painted curves, because we've seen a few riders hit that one coming out of McRae's and lose the back end. They've not fallen off, thankfully, but it's just very slippy. The best thing to do is just always stay off the white line, because you never know what mistake you creep in.
I mean, I was just having a look at Rossi Banham there. He looks bored. It looks like he's just having a look over his shoulder at times, and just not pushing at all at times. He appears to be pushing throughout the rest of the circuit, but I don't know if he has people watching him up at Iredale's, but anytime he comes through there, he's more focused on what's going on off the track than on the track. So Rossi Banham, he still does have the fastest lap, but at the moment he's going 1 second slower than his fastest lap. So he's definitely, sensibly, I think, coming off the power, and I think celebrating already. There is still 4.5 laps to go, and through Iredale's he comes once again, and he appears to just be putting his arm up, so I'm not too sure what that's all about.
He's giving someone a wave.
Taylor Lawrence is second, Brandon Perrell is third, Jamie King fourth. The closest battle is probably for third place, but I say closest, it's still a 3.2 second gap between Perrell and King. So 4 laps it is as they come out of the final corner, and Rossi Banham well clear out from here.
Well, we were talking to Brandon Perrell yesterday, and he was saying that at Tattershall, if he stays consistent, picks up some 4th places, which he has done so far this year, quite a lot of on numerous occasions, then he will wrap up third in the championship. But he's on course at the moment to pick up his 2nd podium of the season. So if he can hold it, then I just put my headset there, let's go through the roof, and yeah, so we've got Rossi Banham just popping wheelies coming out of Iredale, so celebrating a little bit too early. You don't want to be doing that, because as we said, maybe sometimes a lack of concentration might make you slip off, but he did.
He actually did the fastest lap.
Yeah, he did set the fastest lap at 51.3. So come back to Brandon Perrell. He said that he will be hoping to wrap up third in the championship, and coming into a season he's only targeting a top 10, so finishing third is not too bad at all. So we usually do have more runners and riders in the Extreme 300 class, but we're quite far north, so some of them have gone, looked at the weather and gone, no, not looking like too good this weekend, or especially on Sunday. But Brandon Perrell on course to pick up his 2nd podium of the weekend with 2.5 laps remaining. Rossi Banham holds an 8.2 second advantage. Can Richard Holmes Williams climb up towards 5th spot? He's 13.8 seconds further behind, but he's lapping a little bit faster than Dave Hall at the moment.
I just saw Rossi Banham waving there as he came out of Iredale's. It's a shame he hasn't been with us the whole season. I was just having a look at the points there. Rossi Banham was at Wilton Mill, scored 36 points, which, I mean, to Richard Holmes Williams 52, he was 14 points down on him there. I don't know if it's a local track for Rossi or not, but it's a shame he hasn't done the whole season, because it would have just added that extra challenge, I think, for Holmes Williams, because for Holmes Williams, his main challenges come from Taylor Lawrence. and often himself as well, as we saw earlier, just going down. But he is still circulating. That means he will become champion still. I don't think he would have liked to taken the title coming home in 6th place, but sometimes you can't have everything your own way. I think it's taking that title that is the most important thing, and then he can go into race 3 and push as hard as he wants to.
He can do indeed, and once again, it should be a little bit drier for race number 3 later on today, which means they can all push to 100%, which they would like to do. And talking about Wilton Mills, Banham, we've got, is that Taylor Lawrence? No, it's not Taylor Lawrence, that's Dave Hole, has stopped out on the circuit. So Richard Holmes Williams will take over 5th position from Dave Hole, as we've got the last lap for our race leader Rossi Banham. He's put a lap on Richard Holmes Williams, so Richard Holmes Williams is just behind Banham. So as soon as Rossi Banham does cross the line, we will have our new champion for the Extreme 200 class. He has been the class of the field. Banham just waves to the crowd, pops a wheelie as he comes out of Iredale's. It's the final lap, so I guess he could do that. He's waving to the other riders as he heads down towards the Stuart. He's waving to the camera out there in circuit. Well, so he's waving to our cameraman Dan out there in the circuit.
Yeah, I was going to say we do have a live streaming operation as well today. So Rossi Banham, I think, just probably knows that and wants to wave to the cameras. But 1 corner it is to go. Rossi Banham, it's going to be 2 out of 2. Through the final corner he comes, and a very, very comfortable victory for Rossi Banham as he comes across the line. And now we wait to see how far back the rest of the field are. Taylor Lawrence will be next across the line to finish in 2nd place. Taylor Lawrence across the line now, and he was 14.5 seconds back. It's a podium finish for Brandon Perrell, a good ride for him. Jamie King will be 4th, but our champion Richard Holmes Williams, he just pulls up alongside Rossi Banham, and Richard Holmes Williams is the 2019 champion in Extreme 200, and a wheelie it is to celebrate. A very, very deserved champion. It's not the race he would have hoped to have ended it on with a crash earlier in the race, but Richard Holmes Williams, he deserves to take the title around early, and a fantastic season from him. Well done, Richard Holmes Williams, the 2019 champion in Extreme 200. Dave Hole sadly did not take the flag after he went down a couple of laps ago, but he will be classified in 6th place.
A very strung out race, but nonetheless very dramatic indeed. Richard Holmes Williams is your champion for 2019, and Rossi Banham, as he pulls into the paddock, very happy with his race win. Talking to some of the kids that run over to see him and ask him how the conditions are out there.
Yeah,
indeed. But,
get some tips.
Get some tips. So, yeah, where can I take the line there? What's the best opportunity to overtake? As some of the riders, even though they did ride in the wet conditions this morning, it might have dried out a little bit more ever since they came off track from warm-up. So
it's greasy conditions is the worst, isn't it?
So Rossi Banham
racing
is heading back towards the paddock, but we've got to talk about Richard Holmes Williams. What a season he has been in the class of the field, Dan. So, Chris, sorry, Dan's usually in the commentary box with me, so it's easy to get mixed up.
Oh dear.
So I won't call you Dan for the rest of the weekend. So Chris, so Richard Holmes Williams has been the class of the field in 2019, very quick, and usually when he's not about to win, he does settle for those podium positions, but maybe just pushing a little bit too hard today.
Well, Richard Holmes Williams becomes the 2nd official champion of 2019. We crowned one yesterday as well, and we'll come to that class a little bit later on. We have 8 races in total this morning, 10 further coming up in the afternoon, but that is 2 down and 6 to go. But next, coming out onto the track, it's our premier class. It is Mini GP 70.
Here we go, it's the Mini GP70s, the premier class of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. So coming into this race, Evan Belford holds a 57-point advantage over the pole sitter Eddie O'Shea. The 114 on the green bike, the green missile, and of course the Maverick himself. James Cook has dropped to 4th position behind Bailey Stewart Campbell after yesterday's race. Eddie O'Shea taking the race win ahead of Stewart Campbell. He's now 70 points behind Belford, and James Cook has dropped to 75 points further back behind. Now the championship could be wrapped up today, but we will have to see what happens in race number 2. Race number 3 will be coming up a little bit later on today, but before that happens, our top 2 from yesterday's race set off with the rest of the grid, and to take you through the grid is myself and Eddie O'Shea. Will be starting from pole position ahead of Bailey Stewart Campbell. In 3rd position is your championship leader and quickest in warm-up yesterday, Evan Belford on bike number 52, leading off the 2nd row of the grid. And we've got a bit of an incident down at McRae's. Not sure who that is.
Dear.
We've got a couple of them down, but
it looks like we've got one rider that's gone down there.
Yeah, so the red bike of Johnny Garness. So on bike 57, he was 4th yesterday. So that's a bit of a shame that he went down. Maybe just clip that white line, which we saw in the pit bike 140s, was throwing up a lot of issues.
It looks like he's just the left handlebar. He was just having to just get back in position. I don't know if there was any damage, but I believe he's up and going now.
Well, he should have been starting from 5th position on the grid. Fingers crossed he can get back to the grid to lead from the 3rd row of the grid. Next to him will be the 48 of Ollie Walker, James Cook, who is feeling a little bit happier today, feeling more confident going into today's action. Speaking to his dad yesterday, having a bit of an issue in yesterday's race, he will be looking to gain some positions, going from 7th on the grid. Ryan Hitchcock will be next up in 8th, ahead of the first of the Mellors. It's Owen Mellor in 9th, and running at the top 10 is Thomas Gomez. Next up is Alfie Davidson ahead of Dylan Miller, and 13th is Harrison McKay. Harrison Crosby will be in 14th ahead of Carter Brown, Joe Farragher and Jamie Woodcock, rounding out the runners and riders. But keep an eye out on Ryan Hitchcock and Harrison Crosby coming from further down in the grid.
Well, I can tell you that. Well, as you mentioned there, Harrison Crosby and Carl Payne, they need good results today. DNFs for them yesterday. So those two from the outside of row 2 and 4 need good results. It was Eddie O'Shea from Bailey Stewart Campbell and Evan Belford, Garness, Walker, Cook, Hitchcock, Owen Mellor, Alfie Davidson and Thomas Gomez, your top 10. But very close between the top 4, particularly 2nd to 4th in the championship. Eddie O'Shea, Bailey Stewart Campbell and James Cook. A change yesterday. Stewart Campbell going to 3rd, James Cook going to 4th. Let's get ready to go racing then in Mini GP 70. It's race 2 of round 7, and we are off the way in racing. Eddie O'Shea is going to lead us in towards turn number 1. Bailey Stewart Campbell just about holding on to 2nd there. Evan Belford will be 3rd place. Carl Payne looks to be in 4th as they go down to McRae's for the first time. It looks like James Cook may have got through to 5th place as we head up to Iredale's. The top 3 appear to be streaking away out front as they tip their way into Iredale's for the first time, all through nice and safely. And Eddie O'Shea, a particularly good start to him. He's already created a bit of a gap over Bailey Stewart Campbell now as they head down towards St John's. Still slightly tricky conditions for the Mini GP 70s. Evan Belford applying lots of pressure here to Stewart Campbell, and he's going to look to the outside as they come through Paddock Bend, trying to get the switchback on Bailey Stewart Campbell. He'd need to be brave to make a move into turn 1 though. Let's bring you the top 10. It is O'Shea, Stewart Campbell, Belford, Payne, Hitchcock, Cook, Walker, Owen Mellor, Garness and Davidson.
There's a bit of a gap opening up between O'Shea and Stewart Campbell as they make their way down to McRae's. I told you to look out for Ryan Hitchcock. The reason I said that is because in the tricky and wet conditions at Wilton Mill, race number 3, he was lapping super fast. 4 seconds a lap quicker than absolutely everyone else. He fell off from the lead, but we've got a change for lead. It's Stewart Campbell up the inside of O'Shea into Stuart S's very commanding pass late on the brakes and up the inside. I was saying there was a bit of a gap opening up a little bit earlier on in the lap, but it seems to be he has. Oh, we've got a move for 2nd now. That's O'Shea dropping back to 3rd. Belford sees that Stewart Campbell's made a move on O'Shea, so he had to follow him through as quick as possible. So after the first lap, it was O'Shea pulling away, and now he's dropped back to 3rd. So not sure what happened there. Maybe the 1st and 2nd, Stewart Campbell and Belford, are just trying out the conditions, and once they've got up to speed, are very happy with it, and they're through to 1st and 2nd and pulling away. But Hitchcock is now into 4th. He's made up a move on Payne into 4th position. Now watch out for him. He will be lapping He's as quick as he can to catch. He's too a bit wide from Stuart Campbell through Iredale's, powering down the straight towards the S. He's nearly side by side, but Belford has to slot back in 2 seconds. It's all happening early on in this race, Chris.
It is, and I spoke to Evan Belford a couple of days ago, and Evan Belford said to me, despite the fact Stuart Campbell was 4th in the championship, he appeared to be the one he was most worried about. He said, Stuart Campbell is closing in on me, and Evan Belford was worried about him more than anyone else, and I think we can see why, because Stuart Campbell is the one leading the way from Evan Belford, who's just gone quickest, so he is keen to stretch his championship lead and give himself a potential chance to wrap it up later. And down the inside at McRae's, Evan Belford, fantastic move there on Bailey Stuart Campbell, nipped it down the inside, no contact whatsoever, nothing Stuart Campbell could do, and Evan Belford gets himself into the race lead on lap number 4, having just set the fastest lap. But there is still a long way to go in this race. There will be 8 laps to go at the end of this one. Eddie O'Shea is about 8/10 back now in 3rd place from our 2 leaders. Then it is Hitchcock and Payne. Much better from them today. The 2 riders that DNF yesterday in 4th and 5th at the moment. Cook, he's feeling a little bit more confident today and a little bit better. He is 6th. Then it is Walker. Owen Mellor, Johnny Gardness, having had that crash on the green flag lap, is 9th, so all seems good for him. Then it is Alfie Davidson from Crosby, Mellor, Gomez, McKay, Farrakher, Jamie Woodcock in 16th place.
0.3 of a second between the top 2. Belford's just opening out the gap ever so slightly. This is going to be great for his championship charges. If it stays the way it is, if we were to put the flag out right now, Evan Belford would extend his championship lead back to 66 points ahead of Eddie O'Shea. But saying that, Eddie O'Shea will be coming under pressure from Bailey Stuart Campbell for 2nd in the championship, which means if it stays the way it is, Evan Belford is well on his way to wrapping up the championship in race number 3 a little bit later on today. But we're speaking too soon. There's only 7.5 laps remaining, and further down the order there's a great battle going on between Owen Mellor and Johnny Garness, who are just tucked up nicely behind the number 48 of Ollie Walker. So that's for 7th, 8th and 9th. Johnny Garness, audacious up the inside into the final turn, makes a move on Owen Mellor. He's up to 8th position now, and after his crash on the green flag lap, he seems to be okay, comfortable with the bike. He backs his handlebar back into position, so that's all good, and he takes his hand off his handlebar.
Well, I believe from what I could see, Garness was just basically tapping on the back of his bike, saying to Owen Mellor, just tuck in behind me and I'm going to pull you along and get you up the order. So that's why I think Johnny Garness was trying to signal to Owen Mellor just to say, follow me, let's not battle, let's get after Ollie Walker. And well, I don't think he's given Mellor a choice. Garness has already pulled away from him, and he's now lining up a move on Walker. Will he do it into Sunny Bend, I wonder? No. Paddock Bend, he may be close enough to try something. Ollie Walker, though, he's a quick driver. He's won races this year, so he's no pushover. But Johnny Garness, a rising star in the Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and Johnny Garness absolutely flying at the moment.
A new fastest lap from Evan Belford that time round, a 49.708. So as the track continues to dry up, the riders are filling the track a little bit more, building up the confidence and going ever faster. But it's only a 0.4 of a second advantage. Garness going for a move on Ollie Walker into Irons. Oh, they nearly touch. That was very close between 7th and 8th position there, but they both stay on. Ollie Walker had to set it up a little bit. Johnny Garness set it up, not sure what was going to happen between his front wheel and Ollie Walker's knee, but both are safely through. But you can see that Johnny Garness is desperately trying to get ahead of Ollie Walker into 7th place as they make their way around Sunny Bend. Can he make a move into Paddock Bend, which he's done on Mellor a few laps ago? He's trying it, he's not making a stick, he's looking every which way at the moment, and you can tell that he does have the quicker pace out of the two. But Belford is approaching back Marcus to Iredale's and looks over his shoulder to see where Stuart Campbell is. He's opened up the advantage again with another new fastest lap, a 49.662. So he seems to be eking it out ever so slightly and putting himself in prime position to win this race.
Yep, well, if Evan Belford, in terms of the championship, if he's 76 points ahead, leaving Rowrah, then he will officially be the champion. At the moment, the gap he has over Eddie O'Shea is 57. He'd extend that by another 9 points if the race ends as it is. So it would go from 57 points to 66 points. That would give him a genuine chance to become champion at race 3 later on. So Evan Belford is doing everything right so far. He's taking the pressure off himself and putting it on the other riders around him, in the likes of Eddie O'Shea, James Cook and Bailey Stewart Campbell. So this is fantastic riding from Evan Belford. Looking at Ryan Hitchcock, he's currently 6th in the standings at the moment, and he's been very consistent so far this season. His best score so far was 36, and he scored 36 points on 3 different occasions now.
Johnny Garness heading down towards Stuart Essex is sitting up with his left hand off the handbar. Maybe he picked up an injury after he fell off during the green flag lap, and maybe he's just trying to rest it.
I think
not
you're
too
right.
sure what's happening with the number 57 of Johnny Garness, but fingers crossed he can finish off this race and pick up some important points. And I can't imagine he's getting any arm pump in these mini GP 50s, but then again, he is a bit of a smaller rider compared to the rest of them, and he's got to hustle these big Metro Kit mini GP 50s around this very technical and tough racetrack.
To give you an idea of how quick Evan Belford is, as that looks like that might have been James Cook trying to make a move. James Cook, as they went down to the first hairpin, trying to make a move on Carl Payne, couldn't quite do it. But Evan Belford last time around did a 49.8. Eddie O'Shea did a 52.2. That is how fast Evan Belford is going at the moment. It looks to be getting close in the battle for 5th place though. Kyle Payne coming under severe pressure from James Cook and Ollie Walker. We're going into the final 2 laps of the race now, and Kyle Payne in 5th place under a lot of pressure now. James Cook trying to get up the inside as they come through paddock bed. Which one of these 3, if any, could finish in 5th as they come through the first corner? They've caught a back marker there, and almost Carl Payne was caught out. James Cook not quite able to capitalise as they come down towards McRae's for the penultimate time. Ollie Walker sat in behind as well. He could grab 2 positions at the end of this race as they go up to Iredale's. Evan Belford still with a 1.5 second lead. This the main battle on track we are talking about. It is the battle for 5th place between Payne, Cook and Walker. They come through the S's, and there'll be just 1 lap to go as Evan Belford comes across the line.
The number 52, Evan Belford, if it stays the way it is, will be extending his championship lead to 66 points, and only Eddie O'Shea will be able to stop him from winning the championship in 2019. Both Bailey Stewart Campbell and James Cook will drop out of contention if it stays the way it is at the end of this race. Powering down towards the Stuart Essex comes your championship leader, commanding lead, 2.1 seconds ahead of Bailey Stewart Campbell. Eddie O'Shea a further 12.7 seconds behind the pair. Few more corners to go into Sunny Bend through the left. Flick the bike back up as you head towards Paddock Bend, the double right-hander to end this lap. Your championship leader, the number 52, Evan Belford, stands up, waves the checkered flag, and of course takes the race to win and extends his championship lead over Eddie O'Shea to 66 points going into race number 3 today. Rounding out the top 2 is Bailey Stewart Campbell on bike number 99, finishing 2.8 seconds behind your race leader and championship leader. Eddie O'Shea completes the podium in 3rd, 16 seconds behind Evan Belford. A very close finish between 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, just behind Ryan Hitchcock, who finished in 4th. So Kyle Payne managed to hold off that gaggle of riders. James Cook slotted into 6th, couldn't find a way past Kyle Payne. Ollie Walker put a valiant effort in the later stages of the race to catch the number 25 and 44 of Payne and Cook. Johnny Garness had a few issues with his left arm during that race, not sure what happened there, but he managed to finish 8th ahead of Harrison Crosby and Owen Mellor, who rounded out the top 10. Alfred Davidson in 8th spot ahead of Thomas Gomez. Dylan Mellor in 13th ahead of Harrison McKay. Joe Farragher in 15th, and missing out just very close on the top 15 was Jamie Woodcock, but Evan Belford feels the pressure coming off him with every race win, and as he pulls his way into the paddock, he must know that he stands a very strong chance of wrapping up the championship later on today. If he wins the race in race number 3 and Eddie O'Shea finishes in 3rd or below, then Evan Belford is your series champion for 2019, Chris.
Very, very quick maths done there whilst talking. Very impressive.
Thank you very much.
How do you do that? No, it's true. You know, he's going to know that now. He'll come in, and I imagine the first thing he'll want to know, where did those guys finish? You know, and they'll do the working out, and then they'll know exactly what the situation is. So we will find out. Of course, we'll do all the maths, but that's what we believe. We believe if he wins and his main rival's 3rd place, then he should be able to do it. So that would take a lot of pressure off him going into the final round. It would mean he can just relax, keep himself out of trouble, and he would be champion already. It's something you'd want to do. I mean, I imagine if he didn't wrap it up later, he'd maybe be a little bit frustrated to have to wait, but he's in a commanding position, and we can see why they're proving still taking race wins, even with the gap he has.
The even more impressive thing is that he missed round number 1. So he dropped 75 points in the first weekend because he broke his collarbone. So he's come back from round number 2 and just picked up race win after race win after race win. And when he doesn't win, he tends to be on the podium. So he's putting in a very strong championship charge. And yes, he can wrap it up a little bit later on today.
Fantastic stuff. So we've already had 2 champions crowned. We could have a 3rd there later. One of the champions we did have crowned is in the next race, so we'll talk about that in just a second. But of course, Mini GP70, our premier class, we expect good racing. We got it there, I think. We I think got demonstrated the talent that we have in the class at the moment with the likes of Evan Belford there. Fantastic riding from him, but great battles down the field as well. That 5th place battle towards the end, very, very close, wasn't it, between Carl Payne and James Cook as well?
It was indeed. There was a lot bubbling up under the surface ready for the end of this race. So this is the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. I'm Liam Hodgins, and alongside me is Chris McCarthy, and he'll be taking you through the grid for the start of this AC40 Pro race number 2.
Yep, AC40 Pro, our champion, was crowned yesterday. His name is Mason Foster. He's going to be on the outside of row number 1. Absolutely no pressure on his shoulders now. It is all done and dusted for him. Ethan Sparks is going to start on pole position to his inside. Row number 2, it's going to be Samuel Munson 3rd. Clayton Edmonds will be 4th. Watch for Charlie Huntingford on row 3. He was quickest in warm-up this morning in the tricky conditions. Sometimes warm-up is nothing to pay attention to, but that was the first real time that they came across those conditions this weekend. So Charlie Huntingford definitely could be one to watch. Finn and Werity will be 6th place on the outside of row 3. Row 4 will be Kobe Perry and Warwick Brady. Then it will be Luke Schofield and Max Werity. Greg Marshall and Holly Harris will be on row number 6. Then it is going to be Jacob Stevenson and Keaton Payne. Liam Kiernan will be on the back row. Yesterday's race, it was Foster from Sparks, Edmonds, Munson, Huntingford, Werity, Brady, Kobe Perry, Max Werity and Holly Harris. That's how they finished. Going to go back to Liam now for the race start.
So the adults are just giving the final prep to their race winning sons and kids as they start off this race. Mason Foster doesn't have his usual yellow bike. He's got a championship winning bike, a new colour scheme, but as the riders are ready, the revs are rising, they look to the lights, and a great start from row number 2 from Samuel Munson. Can he make his way into the lead? No, he can't. It's still Ethan Sparks, but he moves up into 2nd as they flick their way through the chicane, and Clayton Edmonds slots into 4th just behind your series champion Mason Foster. He goes for a move, does Munson into turn number 4? Yes, he makes it, and Clayton Edmonds makes a move in Foster. So we've got a change for 1st and 2nd, and 3rd and 4th. Munson up to 1st, Clayton Edmonds up to 3rd as they power their way up to Iredale. Turn number 5, hairpin at the top end of the circuit. Through nice and cleanly they go, making their way down towards the S's, and it's still Munson in the lead of this race as they go through turn number 6. So halfway round at this first lap at the moment, but Ethan Sparks has made his way back into 1st, and Mason Foster's looking up the inside of Clayton Edmonds into St John's. Can he make the switch back? No, he can't. Into Sunny Bend, but in 5th position. We've got 5th nearly catching the back of Foster, but these 4 are off and running at the moment. So as they come across the line now, we will give you the order of the top 10. So it's going to be Sparks from Munson, Clayton Edmonds up into 3rd, and he's looking up the inside of Munson for 2nd, Foster in 4th, Charlie Huntingford in 5th, Finn and Werity in 6th. Warwick Brady, look out for him. He's always good in these tricky conditions on bike number 99. Kobe Perry in 8th, Max Wedditt in 9th, and Holly Harris rounds out your top 10. Have we got a change of position for 3rd? No, we don't. Mason Foster just slots back in behind the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds.
We had a change of position somewhere though through McRae's. There was definitely a move being made in somewhere in the lower order of the top 10. Ethan Sparks leading the way though. It's Samuel Munson who is in 2nd place. Munson under a lot of pressure though. Edmonds and Foster queuing up at the moment. Mason Foster, our 2019 champion, as they come through Paddock Bend, and now down towards the start-finish line. Is Clayton Edmonds going to take a look up the inside? He is, and he's through. Good move that. Clayton Edmonds goes into 2nd place. Mason Foster now trying to have his look to get into the top 3. Have we had changes behind? Huntingford is still in 5th. Finn and Werrity 6th, and it's Brady Perry, Max Werrity and Holly Harris as they come out of the hairpin and now down towards the far corner. So that's the long turn number 6. Now down towards St John's they will go, and it Sparks with a lead of about 1.2 seconds here, but it looks like Samuel Munson is going to be under more pressure as Foster, well, he tried a move. He just went to line up a move there into the penultimate corner. He did that yesterday, and then the very next lap he made that move. So next time round I'm going to be looking out for Foster to make a move.
Mason Foster looking at the inside of Munson into turn number 1. I thought he was about to do it, Chris, but he didn't, so just backing off at the moment. So maybe he's just sitting back having a little bit of fun at the moment, not having to push too hard in these tricky conditions since he's already got the championship wrapped up. But he's all over the back of the fast starting Munson, making a move up towards Iredale's. Not late on the brakes enough from Mason Foster, but we can't forget our 2nd place in the championship, Ethan Sparks. He's commanding the lead at the moment, but Mason Foster is looking every which way up the inside. He will make a move soon on Munson. It will be Paddock Bend because he's done it yesterday. So up the inside comes Foster once again into St John's. Will he get the switchback? Munson's defending. Will he go around the outside into Sunny Bend? No, he doesn't. So this is a very entertaining battle on track between the 72 of Samuel Munson and Mason Foster as they come across the line any second now. And the gap at the top of the field was coming down, but it isn't anymore. It's 1.36 seconds. But Mason Foster is now past Samuel Munson up to 3rd position across the start finish line up to turn 1. He made the move stick. He's 2.5 seconds behind Edmonds in front of him, and only 3.8 seconds further back from Sparks. I was about to say that the gap was coming down between the Sparks and Edmonds, but on that last lap there, Sparks put in the fastest lap of the race at 55.777, and he's extended the lead back to 1.3 seconds.
Yep, so Sparks gets a new fastest lap, as you said, to further extend his lead. It's now 1.3 seconds over Clayton Edmonds. Foster has moved up to 3rd. Took him a couple of attempts to do so, but he did get through cleanly when he eventually got there. Munson has now dropped to 4th place. Huntingford is 5th. Werrity in 6th place at the moment. Brady is 7th. Perry is 8th. Max Werrity is 9th. Harris is 10th. Then it is Schofield, Marshall, Stevenson, Payne and Kiernan as they come through McRae's and up towards Iredale's. It's the battle for 3rd place. Since getting into 3rd, Mason Foster hasn't been able to really put a gap between himself and Munson. Munson has stayed with him, so this is encouraging stuff from Samuel Munson, who is 4th in the championship at the moment. Had a particularly good start to the season, hasn't had the best of runs in the second half, so Munson could do some good results to try and end his season as he started it, with some potential wins perhaps, podium finishes. But we're going to have 4 laps to go, 3 laps shall I say, as Sparks comes across the line. He is now in the lead by 1.4 seconds.
Ethan Sparks is well on his way to picking up his 3rd win of the season. He's the only other rider apart from Mason Foster to have picked up a race win so far in this season. So the number 62 of Ethan Sparks has been on the pace, well, quicker than Mason Foster all weekend. I remember seeing them out on circuit on Friday and both chasing each other around the track for about 10 laps. So it was very entertaining to watch, but with Ethan Sparks qualifying on pole position, you just feel that in this last race or two that he's really clicked, and he's ever advancing on his third win of the season and second place in the championship. But Mason Foster and Samuel Munson, they're still tagging onto the back of each other. So once Mason Foster got into third, he hasn't dropped Munson, and those were the two that you might remember, Chris, crashed on the last lap at Tattershall in race number 3, which meant Ethan Sparks picked up the race win. They were both okay, which was good, but they were both in first and second, crashed on the last lap, and Ethan Sparks was sitting in third. That's when he picked up his second race win of the season. The gap between himself and Edmonds seems to be yo-yoing back and forward, so it goes between 1.2 and 1.4. It's now sitting at 1.3, so with a lap and a half remaining, can Edmonds put Ethan Sparks under a little bit more pressure and pick up his first win of the season?
Yeah, Ethan Sparks. I think since Mason Foster got that championship tied up yesterday, he wants to go out now and solidify his second place. He can't do that today, I don't believe, but Ethan Sparks can put a real healthy distance between himself and Clayton Edmonds. At the moment it is 47 points, so it is quite a fairly long margin. Samuel Munson is only 7 points, I think it's 54, 7 points, so it is just back. So it is it's fairly close, I guess you could say, for third place, but Ethan Sparks will want to solidify this second going into the final round, and he's doing just that, sitting where he is in the race lead at the moment as they come through Iredales and now down towards the Stuart S's. This is a fantastic job here from Ethan Sparks. He is ridden superbly in challenging conditions. Clayton Edmonds 1.2 seconds back. He may have come off the gas ever so slightly on the last lap, but Ethan Sparks now just has 2 corners to go, and he is going to win race number 2 in the AC40 Pro. He rounds the final corner, and Ethan Sparks takes the race win in race number 2. Fantastic ride from him, and Clayton Edmonds will finish in a superb second place. Mason Foster rounds out your top 3. Ethan Sparks absolutely delighted with that one, takes the race win to get Sunday off to a start with the AC40 Pros. Fantastic riding. Outside of the top 3 it was Samuel Munson. Then we had Charlie Huntingford, Finn Werrity, Warwick Brady, Kobe Perry, Max Werrity and Luke Schofield. Should be your top 10 in that order. They are yet to cross the line, so we will confirm that for you in just a second. I don't know, I think Max Werrity may have been able to make 1 or 2 moves here. Let's have a look. And indeed he did. Max Werrity jumped up to 7th place, so a fantastic end to the race for Max Werrity. A fantastic last lap, grabbed 7th at the end. Warwick Brady drops to 8th, Perry to 9th. Schofield will be 10th from Holly Harris, Greg Marshall, Jacob Stevenson, Payne, Kiernan sadly not finishing the race, but Ethan Sparks, fantastic ride from him.
It was indeed, picking up his third race win of the season in front of his rival for second place in the championship, Clayton Edmonds. Both high-fiving each other on the cool-down lap as they went up to Iredales, and Clayton Edmonds delighted with second. Of course he should be. That was a great result, beating of course your series champion, but Ethan Sparks just showing how quick he has been all weekend. Qualified in pole position, was running Foster all the way down to the last lap in race number 1 before they both caught back markers, but once again today showing his prowess in these damp conditions, and you just feel that this has just been a turning point for Ethan Sparks, and you could see him just growing in stature, growing in confidence for the next 4 races of the season.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic it's been a fantastic season for Ethan Sparks. May not have been able to put a huge challenge there on Mason Foster at times. Foster wrapped that up yesterday, but Ethan Sparks, that's the best response he could have gave coming out today, getting a victory. He'll want to do the same later on and almost wrap up second place. So Ethan Sparks, brilliant from him. However, we may have had a champion crowned in AC40 Pro, but the next class couldn't be much closer when it comes to the championship. It is the AC40 Rookies. Just 22 points between the top three after yesterday. We had Marco Holt, the brilliant Marco Holt, 8th in the championship coming into this round. He'd topped his score for the last 4 rounds in a row, and he looks to be doing that once again. He's going to be on the outside of the front row. So, and he was quickest in warm-up as well. So Marco Holt absolutely flying this weekend. But in terms of your championship, Ollie Sims leads the way, and on the grid, Ollie Sims is 7th. Second, and just 9 points back, is Archie Gibbs, and he is pole position. So you can see the difficulties that Ollie Sims is facing this weekend. Luke Fitchett, a good run for him yesterday. He starts from the outside of row 2 and is just 22 points back. So we could see a change in the championship lead with that grid order if it stays as it is in this race. But Ollie Sims will want to come back fighting today. To talk you through the grid, here is Liam Hodgins as the riders get ready to go off on their green flag lap.
So former championship leader and championship contender, the number 3 of Archie Gibbs, leads off from pole position ahead of first-time race winner in yesterday's race. 1 is the number 58 of Marco Holt, and as Chris mentioned, fastest in warm-up this morning. Joshua Williams leads off row number 2 on bike number 78 in third ahead of Luke Fitchett, who pushed Marco Holt all the way in race number 1, picking up the fastest lap of the race and sitting third in the championship. So we've got to keep an eye out on him from 4th on the grid. Harry Payne is next up in 5th ahead of Casey Spadey. Casey Spadey picking up 2 of the last 3 races, so winning 2 of the last 3 races, so keep an eye on him for as well. He's good in these tricky conditions. Ollie Sims, your championship leader, leads off row number 4 and 7th ahead of William Harris. Archie O'Brien in 9th spot, and running at the top 10 is the 141 of Darren Cox. Just outside the top 10 is a Scottish racer from up north, racing around some of the karting circuits I race against, is Jack Dunnaby on bike 641 ahead of Thorley Trevorrow on bike 42 in 12th spot. Arnie Carr in 13th ahead of Noah Guillory and 14th on bike number 41. Next up is going to be Byron Johnson on bike number 273, just out qualifying the number 9 of Bailey Lawrence. Sol Perry will be following that up in 17th ahead of Austin Johnson on bike 327. Max Wilson on bike 33 will be in 19th, and running at the top 20 is Izzy Carter on bike number 46, known as Minnie Rossi on the distinctive pink liveried bike. Callum Maxwell is next up ahead of Chloe Sill, and rounding out the top 23 runners and riders is Travis Shaw, and to take you through the start of this race is Chris McCarthy.
Right, here we go then. Archie Gibbs on pole position, could be the championship leader at the end of this race. He just needs to get 9 points over Ollie Sims, who starts in 7th. Likewise, Luke Fitchett just 22 points back. He could bring himself right into contention. And when I say right into contention, he could even walk away the championship leader today if all goes well. Right, Archie Gibbs and Marco Holt on the front row. Red lights come on, revs rise. We're off away and racing in the AC40 rookies for race 2. Side by side are Gibbs and Holt. Holt almost tempted to challenge round the outside into the chicane, but Gibbs is going to be the leader as they go down to McRae's for the first time. A nice and clean start for the AC40 rookies, which we want to see. Already fairly spreading out are the 23 riders as we come up towards Iredale's then, and Archie Gibbs it is who leads the way, just 9 points back from Ollie Sims. So we also have to watch for Ollie Sims on the number 73. I did see one of the marshals running there, so I don't know if there was an instant further back, but through the Stuart S's they come and down towards St John's, and Archie Gibbs putting a little bit of distance between himself and Marco Holt in the moment. You could say the top 2 are escaping from the rest of the field actually, because Marco Holt keeping Gibbs fairly honest in the opening stages here. We'll get the order to you then as they come across the line to complete lap number 1, the first of 8 laps in this one. It's Gibbs, Holt, Fitchett. Good start from him. He's moved up to 3rd. He's 1.2 seconds back from the top 2. Then it's Williams, Payne, Sims is up to 6th, so that's a crucial place made already. Then it's Sperry, Dunnaby, Trevorrow and Noah Guillory. A good recovery from Thorley Trevorrow, who sadly didn't take the start of the race yesterday after problems on the green flag lap.
Ollie Sims just dropped back in position after Casey Spadey made a move into turn number 1. So Casey Spadey's on the move. unfortunately your championship leader's dropping down the order, and it's a championship rival, Archie Gibbs, who's led the championship so many times this season, seems to be picking up most race wins, but is just falling off or just having a couple of issues that means he doesn't score the full points that we know he can do. Had a bit of an off-colour race yesterday, finishing in 4th, didn't seem to have the pace, the same that Marco Holt and Luke Fitchett did, and Marco Holt is starting to gain that confidence back that he had yesterday, is closing the gap back down to Archie Gibbs. So after yesterday's first race win, the monkey's off his back and he's now out for more race wins. So the number 58, Marco Holt, is showing a great turn of speed here at Rowrah. Round number 7, race number 2 of the AC40 rookies, lining up a move potentially on Archie Gibbs as they make their way up to Iredale's turn number 5. Late on the brakes up the inside, will he make it stick? No, he doesn't. You can't outbrake Archie Gibbs that well. He is the last of the late breakers. Luke Fitchett is making some moves as well. He's up to 3rd and potentially closing the gap on the top 2. So if these two keep scrapping the way they are, then Luke Fitchett will be rubbing his hands and thinking, yes, thank you very much, I'll just nip up behind you, and if you two have a bit of an incident, I'll just take the race lead. So 5 and a bit laps remaining now as they come across the start finish line in the next few moments into Paddock Bend they go. Marco Holt not looking up the inside this time round, but as they come across start finish line we will give you a rundown of the order. So it's Gibbs from Holt, Fitchett next across the line, and he's not gaining on him, he's 2.5 seconds further back. Joshua Williams on bike 78 is up to 4th, Harry Payne in 5th, Marco Holt looking up the inside of Gibbs, not doing it just at the moment. Payne is in 5th, Spady 6th, Sims in 7th, Dunnaby in 8th. Late on the brakes from Marco Holt potentially at the moment, he's not close enough, but he's going for it anyway, and wow, that would have been audacious and brave if he managed to make it stick. Archie Gibbs so comes, so ran a little bit wide just to give him a bit of room, but thankfully both through the corner up at the top end of the circuit. So to make the way down to Stewart's, this is just shaping up very nicely. Quick rundown of the rest of the top 10. Thorley Trevor on 9th, and we've got Cox in 10th.
The confidence from Marco Holt is clear, fastest on track and trying audacious moves is what we want to see. Bad news for Ollie Sims, of course, so he's back down to 7th, which would give him 9 points compared to 25 points for Archie Gibbs, so he would drop back by about 16 points, so it would be a huge change in the championship. Luke Fitchett also, he is running in 3rd. That would give him 16 points, with Ollie Sims scoring 9, so he closed the gap significantly and bring it down to just 15 points. So big changes could be made in terms of the championship in this one, and we could see, if it stays as it is, Archie Gibbs going into race number 3 as the championship leader. Lots of changes being made, Liam, in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I want to point out a great overtake by Archie O'Brien on Dannon Cox into Paddy Bend, the final turn. Not an easy corner to make a move, it's very tough trying to flick the bike from left and back over to right again, so it's a line that you sort of take very tight in the way in, so you've got to be very, very tight, and I've got to get up very early in the morning to make a move into that corner. So now that O'Brien is in 10th, he's making the move up towards Thorley Trevorrow in 9th. Cox has now got Harris all over the back of him for 11th position, but just looking at the timing screen, and Archie Gibbs has opened out the advantage to 6/10 of a second with a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:05.85. That is a very quick lap time considering the conditions. The fastest lap yesterday in bone dry and sunny conditions was a 1:02.95, so very, very, very quick conditions indeed from Archie Gibbs, who will be taking the championship lead if the result stays the way it is now. So if the flag were to come out right at the moment, Ollie Sims is now down in 8th position. That is only 8 points, while Archie Gibbs will be picking up 25. He started this race only 9 points further behind. I don't know if I can do quick math. I don't know if I can do as quick maths as that, so that's very good you've managed to figure that one out, Chris.
Yeah, so 8 points, he'd be 8 points back, Ollie Sims, from Archie Gibbs, if it stays as it is.
Yes, very, very well done indeed. I wouldn't have been able to figure that one out at all, but some great scraps going on further down the field. Byron Johnson, Arnie Carr, Noah Guillery, Bailey Lawrence, the likes of them all scrapping over 13th position. So moves getting made round the outside into Stewart's all over the place, and there's only 2 laps remaining of this AC40 Rookies race number 2. So not sure what happened in the last lap to Marco Holt. He's dropped 2.1 seconds further back from Archie Gibbs, so maybe he got tangled up with some back markers.
Yeah, that's probably the case. He had a slow lap. He was 1.6 seconds off his usual pace, if you like. In fact, he was 2 seconds slower than his fastest lap. So Marco Holt definitely going to settle for second here, because we are about to start the last lap of the race. The rider's already in the final sector. Archie Gibbs is coming through Sunny Bend at the moment. Now he's heading up towards the final corner. He is going to be the championship leader if he stays on the bike. He is going to be going into that race 3 with a chance to extend that lead even further, with Ollie Sims, of course, starting down in 7th. Archie Gibbs has done fantastic. Sometimes that is why qualifying is so crucial in the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, because where you qualify is where you start all 3 races. So a bad qualifying really puts you on the back foot for the entire weekend, and Archie Gibbs now only has to hold on for half a lap to take the championship lead.
Your pole sitter is converting it into the race when Archie Gibbs on bike number 3, the very distinctive bike out there on the circuit. You couldn't miss it if you wanted to. And lots of bright yellow on his bike as well.
Ollie Sims back to 7th.
Ollie Sims has gone back to 7th, so that's going to be a gap of 7 points, I believe. Marco Holt, number 58, in 2nd position. He's now 2.9 seconds further back from your race leader, who approaches Paddock Bend, the final turn around the outside of a back marker. Only one more banking to go for your new championship leader. Archie Gibbs takes race number 2 in the AC40 Rookies, holds his hand up to punch the air with delight with the race win. Marco Holt is in 2nd, so picking up another podium position. 45 points for him so far this weekend. Luke Fitchett scores a great 3rd spot and will move ever closer to Ollie Sims in the championship for 2nd. He rounds out the podium positions ahead of Joshua Williams and Harry Payne. Casey Spady comes across the line in 6th. We're waiting for Ollie Sims, who's got Archie O'Brien all over the back of him, and Jack Dunby very close across the line, only thousandths in it. Ollie Sims holds off Jack Dunby and Archie O'Brien for 7th, 8th and 9th. Rounding out the top 10 was Thorley Trevorrow, so Archie O'Brien went on a bit of a charge towards the end of the race, claiming that 9th spot. Thorley Trevorrow rounds out the top 10 ahead of William Harris, Darren Cox in 12th, and then a great scrap for 13th, 14th, and the rest of the field comes across the line now. Arnie Carr takes it ahead of Noah Galloway on bike 41. Sol Perry rounds out the points finishes just ahead of Max Wilson and Bailey Lawrence. And Chris, you can just see how delighted Archie Gibbs is about taking that race win, and of course retaking the championship lead.
Well, he was celebrating more than I've ever seen him celebrate that. I think he knows how crucial that win was. He knows, I think, that he is now the championship leader. A fantastic ride from Archie Gibbs with Ollie Sims in 7th. Ollie Sims scores 9 points. Archie Gibbs scores 25 points. Of course, a 16-point difference. So a 16-point swing there in the championship puts him in the lead by 7 points. Luke Fitchett moves to 15 points behind the championship leader. So Luke Fitchett just goes from being 22 back to 15 back. So
that's some incredible maths you're doing there today.
Well, it probably might be wrong. There might be people sort of shaking their heads a little bit confused, but that's how I see it when you were going through the last half of that lap there. But we will do the maths in the lunch break and be able to tell you exactly what is what. But very close in the AC40 Rookies, all to play for as we go into the final race of round number 7, the penultimate round of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series of the BSB, the road to MotoGP. Our AC40 Rookies putting on a fantastic show for us. Next we go into our senior mini motos. This a race where we could see a champion crowned. So this is going to be a very exciting one, that's for sure. let's go through the situation in the championship then. It's Bernie Hook and Matt Birkin are two riders that we are focusing on. Bernie Hook wins this one, he is champion. What we worked out is if he finishes in the top two, he is champion, but if he DNFs, then Matt Birkin must finish 10th or higher. That's the situation. Bernie Hook really just needs to do what he usually does, and he should become champion. So I will now hand over to Liam just to talk you once again through the situation. It's 398 points for Bernie Hook. Matt Birkin 292 points, with Liam still recovering from the end of that very exciting race. I'll go through the grid for you. Senior Mini Motos it is. They go off on their green flag lap. Bernie Hook is going to be on pole position. Josh Birkin, quickest in warm-up. He will be alongside on the front row. Matt Birkin and Adam Ambrose will be row 2. Craig Ashell and Nick Bennett will be row 3. Then it's going to be Mark Payne and Chris Yelmans on row 4. Andy Whedon and Simon Huntingford row 5. Aston Dean and Ross Michael row 6. Neil Skinner and Mitch Hollingsby row 7. Are we going to see our third champion of the weekend crown? Bernie Hook it is. Top 2 finish, he becomes champion. It's as simple as that. And if he finishes lower than that, then we're going to have to do some maths as we go along.
Absolutely.
But we will be working that out for you as the race goes on. Bernie Hook, I think, knows what he has to do. Really, there's not a huge amount of pressure on him to finish it in this race. He is 106 points clear. If the gap is 100 points at the end of this race, then he becomes champion. Simple as that. So they are just making their way round the final corner to line up on the grid. So for the race start, here's Liam Hodgins.
Bernie Hook will be hoping that the issues of yesterday don't come back to haunt him. I bumped into him in the toilet yesterday after yesterday's proceedings, and he just said he ran over a curb, so that's why his chain came off as he was leading the race. But he won't want to be hitting any curbs today. We'll be hoping that his bike stays intact and that he can just do what he so normally does, and that is put on a very good race and take the race win. And of course the championship, the revs are rising, the red lights are open, and away they go, and a bit of a wheelie there from Bernie Hook, but Black Birkin gets an absolute flyer from the second row of the grid and slots into second, just ahead of yesterday's race 1 winner. Josh Birkin is the power on the way down towards McCarthy. It's the first hairpin of the circuit. Josh Birkin looking around the outside of Matt, and Andy Whedon slotting back into second as they make their way up the hill into Iredale's. All these senior mini moto riders getting their heads down. There's not a lot of movement on these bikes. There's no for them really to go. So they've got to try and get their heads down in some sort of order to try and get some air passing over the top of their heads. So make their way round the corner and into turn number 7. And it's approached the end of this lap. Bernie Hook leads away. Matt Birkin late on the brakes, closing right up to the back of Bernie Hook. Matt Birkin is the only person that can stop Bernie Hook from taking the championship here today. But if Matt Birkin wins the race and Bernie Hook finishes second, he will still win the championship. So Matt Birkin needs to win the race no matter what for Bernie Hook to win the championship. That's the easiest way of looking at it here today. Bernie Hook needs a top 2 position finish to at least take the championship here in race number 2. There's a great scrap going on further behind the top 2 for 3rd position. So that's Adam Ambrose, Simon Huntingford, Josh Birkin and Mark Payne all scrapping over the final podium position. This is a battle that we can't turn our attentions away from at the moment because it's just epic. So there's about a 1.3 second gap between the top 2 and of course Ambrose in 3rd.
Yep, Bernie Hook doing very well in the early stages. Bennett there in 2nd, Ambrose in 3rd place. Did see someone trying to line up a move down the hill, but wasn't successful in doing so. Someone else trying to get a move into Sunny Bend. I think that was Aston Dean. As they come round the final corner, Ambrose leading a bit of a queue here for 3rd place, with Huntingford in 4th, Birkin in 5th, Ashell in 6th, then it's Dean in 8th, Payne is 7th, and Hollingsby is 9th place as into McRae's. That may have been a move being completed a little bit further down the field. The number 21 of Ambrose. Now down through the 2nd hairpin at Iredale's we go, and looks like conditions are getting a a little bit easier to contend with now, Liam. It's just looking at the track surface, just starting to dry up a little bit more now, isn't it?
It is indeed, but it still seems a bit slippery out there today. And of course, these riders are making their way round the circuit very nicely indeed and not causing too many issues on circuit. But then again, it is the senior mini motos and you never know what's going to happen. This class always gives us great entertainment, especially when they want to act a little bit silly, which at the moment none of them want to do, because Josh Birkin is making a move on Huntingford Ford. Now, and he slid off as he makes a move, but he's back up and he's okay, and he's only lost a few positions in that and a few seconds. We've seen this so many times from Josh Birkin. He loses the front and gets back on it like nothing's happened. He's done that back at Wilton Mill and still won the race after about 17 crashes. Over exaggerating a little bit there, but that's something that he's very used to. So he went for a move on Huntingford into McRae's, slid off the bike and just only dropped behind Ashall and Payne. He's only about 2 seconds off of this group. So it was a move that went a little bit wrong for Birkin there, but Nick Bennett holding a commanding advantage at the top of this group. But Bernie Hook is setting fastest lap after fastest lap, a 56.718 as his best lap, and on that lap there has just set a 56.874. So very consistent lap times for the man that will become your series champion at the end of this race if everything stays the way it is. The red bike of the number 0, Bernie Hook, is showing his prowess in this race ahead of Matt Birkin. So Matt Birkin still just behind Bernie Hook and dropping back ever so slightly from the person that could become your series champion.
Yep, Bernie Hook just coming down the hill. This looking good for him at the moment. See Birkin just sitting in behind at the moment, and then we've got a great battle going on for third place further back. Adam Ambrose leading that one at the moment as they come across the line. Through the chicane we go, and Bernie Hook still leading the way at the moment. Matt Birkin it is in second place. Got a fantastic start, did Matt Birkin, but wasn't quite able to get past Bernie Hook. We're into the final 4 laps of the race, 3.5 to go at the moment, and you can see the riders getting their heads down.
Making some progressions as they make their way through turn number 7 up towards St John's. This is a very tricky section of track. We've seen some riders pushing their way through and not slipping off, but we've heard from some riders during the weekend that is one of the most technical and trickiest sections on the circuit. Matt Birkin is in second position behind Bernie Hook, only a couple of seconds further back, so he has been dropped by your series leader at the moment. But in the last lap it looks like they might have closed the gap ever so slightly. The battle for the final podium position is still raging on between Nick Bennett, Simon Huntingford, Craig Ashall, Mark Payne, Aston Dean. Josh Birkin is further back than he would like at the moment after slipping off a little bit earlier on in this race. Adam Ambrose has nipped off from the head of this field to about a 2-second advantage over this battle here. So this is a battle we can't draw attention away from just at the moment as the riders power on the way down towards Stuart S's. There's only 2 and a bit laps remaining from Bernie Hook, who will be crossing the start-finish line in the next few moments to see himself coming into the final 2 laps of the race and see that championship shining ever brighter just in front of him. The 2019 Senior Mini Motos Championship trophy will be coming in ever closer into his vision.
I was about to ask you, what does that feel like when you've got a championship inside? But I imagine you never know that feeling.
That's a bit harsh there, but yeah, you're right. I've only ever scored podiums.
I'm only joking. Bernie Hook with only a couple of laps to go now. Well, we've just seen an incident going into McRae's. I think that was Craig Ashall who had an off there, was running well inside the top 10. Craig Ashall and just appeared to get tangled up there, and he's going to drop low, all the way down to the lower order of the top 10 now. That's a shame that for Craig Ashall so late in the race as well. But Bernie Hook is just a case of now, don't make any mistakes, don't come off the bike, just stay on the road, and the title will be yours with a 1 lap to go. So it is into the final lap of the race now. Bernie Hook it is, leading out of the chicane, now down towards McRae's. He's going to become the 3rd champion we're going to crown this weekend. This round 7 of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. We do have one more round to go after this at Tattershall, but here at Rowrah we are crowning champions. We have 3 so far this weekend, and there is plenty more we still can crown. 3 more champions could be crowned today. So stay with us throughout the coverage and see what happens. We've had championship leaders change as well, but in the senior mini motos it's all been about Bernie Hook. Fastest lap for him in race number 2, and he's about to become champion. Through Paddock Bend we go. Bernie Hook, it's been a fantastic season, and with a round to go he becomes the 2019 champion. Bernie Hook, I think it's been a long time coming, didn't appear to celebrate too hard. He knows that that's been coming all weekend, and Bernie Hook, I think, relieved more than excited about that one. He'll certainly celebrate tonight though. Congratulations to Bernie Hook. Matt Birkin second, provisional results Adam Ambrose next along from Huntingford, Bennett, Ashall, Payne, Dean, Hollingsby, Josh Birkin I believe ran into trouble. Provisional results though, and I think Bernie Hook now starting to sink in that he has won the title. A fantastic feeling it must be for him. He's worked very hard throughout the season, and Bernie Hook very excited to take that one. So Bernie Hook, a couple of wheelies he's doing now through Stewart's, and he'll come into the pits, I'm sure, celebrate. He'll still have a race to go later though, and a round to go of course as well. But Bernie Hook it is, our 3rd champion to be crowned this weekend, our 2019 champion in senior mini motos.
I've never seen so many wheelies popped on a mini moto in all my life, but Bernie Hook beaming from ear to ear, and of course popping about 200 wheelies as he makes his way back into the paddock. And fast fact, a wee fun fact for you, is that Bernie Hook is the father of Abby Hook, who is dating BSB championship contender and nearly race winner for 2019, but picking up a podium last time out at of course Alton Park. Brad Ray, who we've seen plenty of times here at the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship paddock, and Bernie Hook has been congratulated by all of his friends and his family on achieving the goal of the season, which is to become the 2019 Senior Mini Motos champion. Matt Birkin pushed him all the way, but wasn't close enough in the series this season. So there's been some great, fantastic battles throughout the entire year between all of the senior mini moto riders. We've had a great turnout this weekend, some great racing all the way through that race, with of course Ambrose, Huntingford, Ashall all giving it as much as they gave throughout the entire race. But there's one more race to go, and there's one more race to go a little bit later on today. That will be coming up after the AC40 Rookies race number 3, and the senior mini motors will be heading back out on track at 3:35 p.m. But before we go away for lunch, we've still got 2 more races to bring you, so don't go anywhere. This is the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB, and of course the road to MotoGP. The LC40 elites are now on the grid for the start of their green flag lap, and this is how the grid looks. So Johnny Garness, your championship leader, can wrap up the championship here today and in this race. He is 108 points ahead of the number 88 of Mason Foster, so all he has to do is finish inside the top 2. But if Johnny Garness fails to finish, so DNS did not finish, Mason Foster must finish 7th or higher to keep that championship rolling into race number 3 later on today. But Mason Foster will be lining up second on the grid, just behind his championship rival Johnny Garness, and number 66 seems to be stopping out there on the track. Ronnie Harris, who would be starting from 4th on the grid, as his bike cut out. He's trying to restart the bike again, so he has done. Maybe can get back around the grid, around the track onto the grid. So that's disaster for the 66 of Ronnie Harris, who picked up a well-earned 4th place in yesterday's race. But to round out the runners and rides for the rest of the grid, Clayton Edmonds will be in 3rd. Ronnie Harris should be in 4th. Samuel Munson on bike 72 is in 5th, ahead of Cameron Sewell, rounding out the 3rd row of the grid. Charlie Huntingford is in 7th spot, ahead of Kobe Petty. Holly Harris will be in 9th on bike number 15. Rounding out the top 10 is Warwick Brady, ahead of Greg Marshall on bike number 19. And rounding out the start of this LC40 Elite race number 2, and in 12th position will be Keaton Payne. So here is Chris McCarthy to take you through the start of what could be a very intense and important race for this championship.
Could we crown our 4th champion in this race? Johnny Garness on pole position, top 2 finish, and he's guaranteed to become champion. If he's lower than that, he still can become champion, but it becomes a little bit more working out to do. If Johnny Garness fails to finish, then Mason Foster has to finish inside the top 7 to keep the championship rolling into race 3 this afternoon. That is the situation at the moment. Garness and Foster will be on the front row. Ronnie Harris has run into problems on that green flag lap, as Liam mentioned, so I'm not too sure. And we have Cameron Sewell also being sent to the back of the grid, so 2 slots empty on the outside of the grid in Harris and Sewell. So Kobe Perry could take advantage here and get a lightning start from P8, but the grid marshal appears to be happy now, so any second now they'll be directed towards those red lights, which will come on when they go out. We will be away and racing for the LC40 Elites. It's race number 1. It could be the championship decider. Garness could crown himself the 2019 champion in 8 laps time. Here we go, watch those lights, and they're off away. Oh, Garness, a rocket off the line in towards the chicane, determined to go and take that title. And Garness through the chicane, already streaking clear out front as they go in towards McRae's for the first time. Fantastic stuff that from Johnny Garness, now powering his way up towards Iredale's. Johnny Garness, fantastic riding this from him as he now heads down towards Stewart's. He is well away and clear as they tip their way through the long right-hander of Stewart's, and now they'll make their way downhill. It looks like Foster is still in 2nd place at the moment as we come through St John's. The top 3 breaking away from the rest of the field at the moment as we head up towards Paddock Bend. Garness, it is in the lead. We'll bring you the order when they come across the line to complete lap number 1. It is Garness from Foster, then it is Edmonds in 3rd place. Huntingford has taken advantage, of course, with the likes of Harris and Sewell missing from 7th on the grid. He's gone to 4th. Then it is Munson, Brady, Perry, Harris, Sewell, Marshall, Payne. No Ronnie Harris, sadly, with problems on the green flag lap.
Johnny Garness is determined to take this race win, and not only the race win, the championship in style. Everyone always says that champions always want to go out and take the championship with a race win, but it's not over just yet, as we've seen so many times in 2019. Johnny Garness gets an absolute flyer in the first few laps, but Mason Foster just builds up and then slowly closes in Garness. These two have been the class of the field and have been rivals all the way through their careers, so they're coming across the line now. We will keep an eye on the gap, and yes, Mason Foster has closed the gap down. He was a 10th of a second quicker than Garness on lap number 2, so Garness still leads away from Mason Foster at 53.5 from Foster, first lap of the race. Clayton Edmonds rounds out the podium for the moment, ahead of Charlie Huntingford and Samuel Munson. Warwick Brady in 6th, Kobe Perry 7th. Cameron Sewell, who started from the back of the grid, has made his way up into 8th, ahead of Holly Harris, Greg Marshall, Keaton Payne are rounding out the runners and riders for the moment. So Johnny Garness is coming under a little bit more pressure as they head down towards St John's. Mason Foster is closing the gap very slowly indeed into Sonny Ben's a very tricky corner. Just don't want to be clipping the curb on the inside. Stand the big back up, flick it over to the right, all the way up to Paddock Bend. This could be an ever closing gap as they come across the line to start lap number 4, and it is. It's half a second now as Mason Foster sets another new fastest lap of the race at 53.3. We've seen it so many times this season, we could see another epic scrap for the race win here today.
Yep, Garness doing a good job, but Mason Foster is closing in. Now Garness with Edmonds a further 3.5 seconds back, 4 seconds back from himself. There is literally no point in Garness fighting Foster here. If I was Johnny Garness, I'd sit up and let Mason Foster go through, because Mason Foster will be determined to go and take race wins. That's all he really can do now. Garness, if he finishes second, he still becomes the champion. So Garness really... It's quite straightforward. Just let Foster go through if you have to, and you'll still become the champion. That's the main thing, is winning the title. Race wins, of course, are great, but you can take more of those later this afternoon and indeed at Tattershall. Garness, though, it is Johnny Garness, let's remember. He may start streaking away as we go into the second half of the lap. But once again, Mason Foster was quicker on that last lap. Set another new fastest lap. Edmonds is third, Huntingford fourth, Munson fifth. Cameron Sewell, by the way, of course, sent to the back of the grid from sixth. He is moving up the order very nicely here. He's up to 7th place now, is Cameron Sewell, and 1.3 seconds back from Perry. He was 3/10 quicker than Perry on the last lap, despite that overtake. So we'll keep an eye on Cameron Sewell as the race goes on. But Garness comes across the line. His lead was 0.48. Let's see what it is this time. I believe it is roughly the same. Yeah, 0.416.
These two are on a lap record pace. Once Mason Foster started to catch Johnny Garness, he's now up to his pace. They're the only two in the 53s, and they're not only on the high 53s, but on the low 53s at the moment. A 53.0 for Foster last time round, 53.1 from Garness. The next fastest is Clayton Edmonds in third at 54.8. So these two are showing why they have been the class of the field all season long. Chris, you were just saying there, if you were Garness, you would slip back into second and let Foster take the win. But these two are rivals. They're racers. They don't want the other one to win. They want to beat each other every single race, and they're proving that today with 3 laps remaining as they come across start finish line now. It's coming into crunch time. If it stays the way it is, Garness becomes champion. If he drops behind Foster, he still becomes champion. If he slips off, he won't become champion in this race. And the run that Mason Foster got on to the back straight was brilliant up towards Iredale's the goal at the top of the hill. Later on the brakes from Foster, he has closed the gap. It's only a couple of tenths of a second now. They're in the 53 still, 53.3 for Foster, a 53.4 from Garness.
Yeah, just to give you a reminder, by the way, that there are no signals allowed. That was said in the riders' briefing, so Garness will not be instructed to do anything like that. It will be his decision, and being a racer, he probably won't want to do that. It's easy to look at it from a mathematical point of view, from a neutral point of view, up here in the commentary box to say that, but Garness wants wins. You're completely right. So this is going to be an exciting end to the race, that's for sure, because Foster is chipping away at his lead, but Garness is making it very difficult for him. He's almost saying to Mason Foster, just give up, just stay in second. You're not going to get past me. But Foster keeps just chipping away ever so slightly at that lead, and we are into the final 2 laps. So there is only a lap and a half to go here, and Garness has done a fantastic job so far just to hold off Mason Foster. Edmonds is still in third from Huntingford, Munson, Perry. Sewell is in 7th. I can't see him going any further forward, Cameron, because he's 3.6 seconds back from Perry. Down towards St John's for the penultimate time, and Garness still just holding on. We have got a back marker ahead, which I believe is Keaton Payne, and we just await to see them come around the final corner and down the straight. And Garness, his lead, let's check it out as he comes onto the final lap. It's just over 0.4 of a second, so looking good with 1 lap to go.
Half a lap remaining before Johnny Garnett becomes the LC40 Elite Champion for 2019 if he stays on the bike. But the person that's been there all season long, all career long for Johnny Garnett is still right behind him. Mason Foster and bike number 88 won't let Johnny Garnett take this championship lying down. He will continue to put the pressure on him as they make their way through turn number 6, through turn number 7, the kink and the track down towards St John's. There's only 3 more corners to go. Sunny Bend it is now for Garnett. He's now got a 4/10 of a second advantage up towards Paddock Bend to go across the start finish line. They'll come any second now. Johnny Garnett comes through the final corner and will take the LC40 Elite Championship, the 2019 champion. He is ecstatic as Johnny Garnett. Mason Foster done all he could to try and stop his championship rival, but couldn't do enough. He sets up, looks a bit distraught, but he done a valiant, brilliant job all season long. And Johnny Garnett stops by the side of the circuit to potentially change his helmet or put on a championship
t-shirt.
He's
putting on a champion t-shirt.
A pre-arranged celebration. This is great to see. He's putting on a championship t-shirt to tell everyone that he's done it for 2019. In third spot was, of course, Clayton Edmonds and Charlie.
It's got the number 1 on it, the shirt there, you can see.
Yeah, well, he is a champion for 2019, fully deserved. You've got to show it off indeed to just prove to everyone that you are the champion. You have done it this season, and of course, he's picked up the most amount of race wins, and Mason Foster is so distraught with that, but very happy at the same time because he's the only one that came close to Johnny Garnett all season. And he's got a Czech, is that a Czech Republic flag he's got?
Yes.
Carried around the circuit. Not sure if well, it means something. Maybe it's half of their family.
Family heritage, I guess.
Family heritage. So that is great to see, and we don't see that often in the grassroots with a championship T-shirt and a flag to go around the circuit. But before we get back to the paddock and see the rest of the celebrations from Johnny Garnett. Johnny Garnett takes the race win and, of course, the LC40 Elite Championship for 2019. Mason Foster will be in second in both the championship and in the race. Clayton Edmonds was 17 seconds further back, but rounds out the podium positions ahead of Charlie Huntingford. Samuel Munson in 5th spot ahead of Cameron Sewell. Kobe Petty in 7th. Warwick Brady in 8th. Holly Harris picks up 9th ahead of Greg Marshall, rounding out the top 10. So, Chris, great race there from both Mason Foster and Johnny Garnett. And Johnny Garnett just showing off his celebrations. A nice black and gold t-shirt and, well, potentially some burnouts coming out in the holding area, we hope.
Well, fantastic stuff. He did it in style as well, did it with a win, and I think you could tell how determined he was. That race start, he was an absolute rocket off the line. Set the fastest lap as well. He couldn't have won it in better style. Johnny Garnett, a deserved champion. Credit to Mason Foster, though. He did not give up in that race. He's pushed Garnett all the way this season. He will be a very, very deserved vice champion. There's no doubt about that. Both very bright futures in the sport, so fantastic riding from the pair. Clayton Edmonds, a brilliant 3rd place from him, from a rider that's 7th in the championship at the moment, so brilliant stuff from Clayton. But that is yet another champion. That is now 4 we have crowned this weekend. We won't crown any more before lunch because we've just got the sidecars and then we are into lunch, but directly after lunch we may crown 2 in one race, so